Now, one of the stocks that has been absolutely buzzing in trade today, we mentioned this on the program as well, is Godrej Consumer, and this is not just on account of its earnings, where its PAT was in line. It showed decent growth across all segments, and soaps also hit a decent run rate and aided the Q4 performance. The input costs, of course, were a bit of a pressure, but it was a good performance. But the leadership change is what everyone is looking at. We've got the management of Godrej joining us. Nisaba Godrej is joining us to speak about the performance as well as a lot of other aspects. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. What are the demand trends that you're seeing, and have they at all been impacted by the second wave of the pandemic, and how is it different from last year?
I think what we're seeing is that April has actually been quite strong, so a continuation of Q4. My expectations is that we will have a little bit more of that K demand curves that we've seen. So categories with tailwinds like hygiene or household insecticides will probably have strong growth this quarter, and maybe discretionary categories will be impacted to a certain extent. What we've seen this in the second wave, obviously it's much worse than the first wave, but we've not had the same supply side shocks that we had in the first wave because everything hasn't been fully shut down, and we've been better prepared.
Nisaba, the company has taken price hikes in certain categories. To what extent are you constrained to take further price hikes, looking at the current demand scenario?
So as you know, in palm oil, we've seen sort of 40 to 50% inflation in prices, commodity prices over last year, and we have been taking calibrated price increases. I think we could see that through next year also. Obviously, you cannot pass those prices directly on to consumers, but the way we tend to manage this is, from a portfolio blend perspective, and from a portfolio blend perspective, and we tend to get, market share from smaller players who can't sort of play these commodity prices and they fall out. So we're quite confident of managing the soap portfolio well, like we have in the past year.
The commodity prices have continued to increase. How is the company actually looking at the volumes as well as margin outlook going ahead?
So we obviously, with these sort of price hikes, like I said, you can't pass this all on to consumers. So we have to work on our fixed costs, work in other parts of our portfolio. I think in this environment, we've seen that GCPL has quite a significant business also outside of India, so we've used that to manage our margins. So our goal for the year is to keep margins steady, but if we had to make a choice between margins and volume, we'd probably lean a bit more towards volumes.
All right, point taken on that. And the second wave of COVID-19 has actually hit the rural areas and the smaller towns, which was actually the saving grace during the first wave of COVID-19. Are you worried about this going ahead and impacting the rural growth?
So we can't obviously say for sure what is going to happen. Like I said, April sort of was a continuation of Q4. Our rural sales have been 2x of urban sales. So I think we'll have to sort of watch closely. GCPL's rural portfolio is only about 30%, so we're a bit, it's an opportunity for the future that we're a bit under-indexed in rural compared to some of our peers. So at this stage, we're not too worried about this, but we'll have to see what happens going ahead.
Now, Nisaba, a lot of consumers had just gotten back to spending on discretionary items when the second wave hit. Do you see that there is a little bit of hesitancy creeping in, that's affecting growth, say in the in the hair color segment?
So like I said, April has been a continuation of quarter four. But again, we could expect some impact in the discretionary portfolio. But then what we also saw once the wave passed, once people start going out, these products tend to pick up. We're sort of also focusing on what is our full year goal, and obviously you have to also be agile to see what's happening and adjust as you go along, which is what we did last year.
Now the HI segment is seeing a strong double-digit growth. How sustainable are these growth levels though?
So we continue, and obviously this 30% growth was on a degrowth base last year, so to just qualify that for our viewers. But we're quite confident in terms of the inputs that we've done in household insecticides, and the consumer sort of consciousness on health, protecting their health. No one wants to get malaria or dengue at this time is very strong. And what we've seen in the year, interestingly, is penetration in household insecticides across all formats has shifted quite a bit. So, I think we feel confident in sort of high single digits, low double digit growths in household insecticides going forward also.
All right, let's talk about your international business. What's the update on that particular front? Are you actually likely to see the recovery continue going ahead, because the other nations are past that COVID wave? So do you see the recovery continuing?
So I think our international business overall has done quite well. I'm very happy to report that our Africa business, which was a big focus area of starting to turn around that business, we've delivered now 3 quarters of double-digit profitable and sustainable growth, and we see that going forward. Indonesia as an economy was quite impacted in this past year, much more than India actually. And even there, we've sort of seen single-digit growths this quarter. They had a good growth base, so their base of quarter 4 last year was in degrowth. Our LATAM business is also doing well, so we're feeling quite confident in the year ahead for the global business.
Let's talk about the new leadership change at Godrej Consumer Products. You can clearly see with the stock price, the street is cheering it. The stock is up since its IPO. So what can we actually expect from the new leadership, as well as what does this actually mean for Godrej Consumer Products?
So I think our focus is on, which I've spoken about, double-digit growth, sustainable double-digit growth, while building on, our purpose of bringing the goodness of health and beauty across emerging markets. I think Sudhir is a wonderful fit, very good both strategically and operationally. I think his track record speaks for that. And I think more importantly than just that, his value system, I think his cultural bit is also a good fit for GCPL. So let's see what happens. Obviously, he will now know that the expectations are very high after he's seen this 15% bump up in the morning. But we're expecting, and it's him, but it's also with the whole sort of GCPL team for him to come and set out, the next 5 years of growth. So I'm very excited.
All right, Ms. Nisaba Godrej, we'll leave it at there. Thank you for joining us, giving us a take on your earnings, as well as talking about the new leadership change that is taking place at Godrej Consumer Products. That's Nisaba Godrej, the Chairperson and Managing Director at Godrej Consumer Products. All right, on that note, we'll slip into a break on this edition of Buy Now Sell Now. But stay tuned, more news on the other side, so don't go anywhere.